Alright, because the Rock Island shooting video is going to take a long time, I want to somewhat break it into parts, so I can just concentrating on shooting and explaining while I'm shooting and not make the video 25 minutes long. So, thought I'd just start by doing a comparison in between a 40 S&W and a 10 millimeter. The best way to think about it is to put it in the context of, let's say, 44 Special versus 44 Magnum. It's the same principle, although there's a couple differences between these two cases. This one's 10 millimeter. This one's a 40 S&W. There's a couple differences between these two. But what's the difference between a 44 Magnum and a 44 Special? Case length. One of the differences that the 44 Magnum and a 44 Special, they both take the same bullet, same diameter bullet, even the same types of powders. One just has more powder than the other one does, so it's a Magnum. The same thing applies to the 10 millimeter and the 40. This would be the Special version. This would be the Magnum version. This is 10 millimeter. That's 40 S&W. That's the easiest way to think about it. It really is. They're both 40 caliber, same bullet diameter. They use the same weight bullets. The 10 millimeter can take up to like a 220 grain bullet. Can take up to a 220 grain bullet. I haven't seen any loadings for a 220 grain bullet in a 40. The case is really short on these. So other than the case length, which is pretty obvious here, there's another little, well, pretty substantial difference between these two, other than the case length. The reason why you don't ever want to cut down a 10 millimeter, like you find one on the range, and make it into a 40 is for the main reason right here. See if we can get that going here. Get her in focus. Alright, kind of see that? 10 millimeter, 40 S&W. You see a difference here? 10 millimeter, that takes large pistol primers. 40 S&W takes small pistol primers. You don't ever want to cut down a 10 millimeter to make it into a 40 for that reason. The pressure spikes will be very high, and the 40 is already a small enough case that a little bit does a lot. So that and the case length are really the biggest difference between the two. The 10 millimeter, that came first, then the 40 S&W came along. The 10 millimeter in the original loadings was the original loadings for it when it first came out was there's been a couple different takes on it, but near as I can tell, it's a 180 grain bullet going roughly 1,300 feet per second, and it's 40 caliber. That gives you a foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle of around 750 foot-pounds of energy. out of the muzzle of a 40 caliber or of a 10 millimeter. All right, you're not going to get that in a 40. The 40, you're looking at, 180 grain bullet traveling at about 1100 feet per second. It's a muzzle energy of about 450 to 500 feet per second, or foot-pounds of energy. It's quite a substantial difference between those two. So, Jeff Cooper was the original designer of the 10 millimeter. And I thank him for it. It's a great cartridge. I never knew what inherently accurate cartridge was until I shot the 10 millimeter. So that's a little bit of information for you on that. Ironically, this right here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Probably not. Okay. But this is a 35 Remington. This is a rifle cartridge. The 10 millimeter is based off of a 35 Remington case. Just a little bit of an FYI. That was basically its parent cartridge was a 35 Remington. So there's a little bit of information for you. Lots of guns chamber. The 10 millimeter. Rock Island. They've got a full-size 1911 in a single stack and a double stack in the 10 millimeter, along with they make a mid-size version of that too. Glock makes a couple different models of it. I think EAA makes their Witness is you can get that in a 10 millimeter, and then Kimber and all them guys they make them too in 10 millimeter. Smith and Wesson made a couple different models of the 10 millimeter. They made a 1006, which is a 1911-ish deal. It was a double single action. And they also chambered it in a revolver. My dad has one. It's a model 610 end frame 6-shot 10 millimeter revolver that uses moon clips. Accurate as all get out. So just thought I'd do a little bit of explaining on the differences between the 10 and the 40. So there you go. You guys have a good evening.